And are we joined by others?
Yep. There's 1, 2.
All right.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, good morning and welcome to Maintenance and Resources Management Committee meeting. Finally, we have one. Woohoo! That feels good. 9 a.m., May 26th. Just a few things. If you have a comment, you can press *9 to raise your hand or lower your hand, and *6 mute and unmute, which I'm understanding that we control on our side. As well, yes. Okay. Do we have any public comment?
For items not on the agenda?
Don't where to look.
And trade.
I know, where do we look?
Yeah.
So right there is,
Oh, wait.
oh, we got a hand.
Okay. Oh, I guess we need to look at this.
Okay.
Good morning, Mike Pasner.
Hey, Mike.
My comment, I'm glad we're meeting. Hope everybody's doing well. The February 25th minutes, which I think are coming up, maybe I should have waited for that. It says public comment by Mike Pasner. It doesn't describe the comment at all. And I thought we did describe the comments when people make public comments in the minutes. Thank you.
No, not anymore, because we're posting the meeting.
Because we're what?
We're now posting the meetings.
And the video and the audio are being posted online.
Oh, so they're no longer stated in the written minutes.
Right.
Correct.
The written minutes are, what do we call them? Summary? Or no?
No, these are action minutes now.
Action minutes.
Action minutes.
Right, what action was taken, yeah.
If anybody wants to see or hear what you said, they go to the video.
Interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more comments? None?
All right.
Seeing none, let's move on to approval of the minutes from the February 25th regular meeting.
I'm fine.
Any changes? Any questions?
Yep, I think we're fine.
Okay.
You, Miss?
We will close item number 1, and we will move on to item number 2, fleet replacement planning process. Jackie?
All right. Good morning, committee, staff, and members of the public. This morning I'll be presenting an informational item on the district fleet replacement process.
You're just like the old days.
Yeah, you can advance it, and they'll keep up with you.
So this morning's topics I'll be covering will include the fleet program overview, fleet vehicle life cycle, vehicle replacement planning, life cycle cost analysis, vehicle replacement process, and then answering questions. So on to fleet program overview. So the fleet is comprised of on-road vehicles, including pool vehicles, equipment, trailers necessary for district employees to accomplish the mission of the district. It should be noted the pool vehicles are vehicles that aren't, they are under the maintenance department but are seasonally used by other departments or when vehicles are being maintained or repaired in the shop. So the table to the right provides a broad breakdown of the fleet broken out to the assigned divisions, water, hydroelectric, and recreation. And the pool, which falls and is assigned under the maintenance department, but again, is used by all departments. As of last week, the district had 16 light-duty vehicles. Those are like the Escorts, the small little SUVs. 133 pickup trucks. That includes the 23 pools, 44 medium-duty trucks, and 17 heavy-duty trucks. Now, it should be noted that these numbers are constantly in fluctuation. As vehicles come on, vehicles get cycled into the pool, and then the pool, again, vehicles that are on the lower end of the pool get cycled out and into auction.
Where are Monica's vehicles that she gets?
And those come out of that 23.
Oh, you get from the pool?
Well, I have
She gets
17
the
of
dregs.
them.
Yes.
Okay, just
So,
curious.
and that is included in that 23,
The crash boom on road.
the pool.
Yeah. They get them out of the deep end of the pool and
Got it.
give them direct.
Yeah. So explaining the pool has, right now we have 23 in it. In the summer, Monica gets a huge chunk of those, and then we have a couple. In the winter,
They come back.
They come back. They get used during, seasonal storm events. They go out, people go out and do patrolling. With the COVID event, we've actually had, individual driving requirements for a period where we had to use the pool also. So, you never know when you're gonna use the pool. You're gonna have a number stashed.
Good flexibility.
Okay. So in addition, there are 137 pieces of equipment. 53 pieces of those are actually drivable pieces, like the backhoe or the dozer. And then the 84 other pieces include items such as mobile backup generators on trailers, compaction devices, concrete saws, chainsaws, water pumps, air compressors, things that are worked on by the shop. Those are included in the fleet. All of these assets are managed through the Maintenance Department Fleet Program. The staff used to oversee all of this and do the maintenance. There's a maintenance superintendent, a heavy equipment supervisor, 2 heavy equipment mechanics, and 1 equipment service worker. And then we also have the office assistant who assists with the invoices and any of the other administrative duties.
Sorry, but so does the office assistant, are all these people assigned vehicles?
No.
No.
These are the individuals that work on the program.
That work on the program.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And it should be mentioned that the mechanic superintendent, he also oversees the treated water side of the program. And the office assistant also deals with other sections of the maintenance department, not just the
I was trying to figure out. Okay, thank you.
But these are the ones that primarily touch the fleet program. All right, and all this is accomplished with 1 mechanic shop that has 3 enclosed bays, an outdoor covered area to work on the larger pieces of equipment that won't fit inside or to store. 1 office, there's 4 fueling stations that they oversee in terms of performing maintenance, scheduling maintenance, doing the measurements. 2 of those bays are up here in the grass valley yard, and then they also do the maintenance for the one that's in the plaster yard.
Okay. So, I have another question. So when you total up the vehicles, there's 210 vehicles. Taking out the equipment and out the trailers, it's 210, I believe, across all 3 departments. Is that a number that you get? Because you got 16, 133, 44, and 17.
So 210, correct.
Yes.
And that's fluctuating, because there's vehicles that are registered right now, but they're in the shop getting outfitted with the trailers, and then once those get out to their assigned employee, then those other vehicles get moved into the pool or reassigned, and then the vehicles that are on the lower...
It's a rotation.
It's a rotation.
But I was wondering, because we have 214 employees, so does almost everybody get a vehicle assigned to them, or how? No.
Because then we have Monica bring on how many temporary employees. Yeah, so...
So you gotta take the 20 whatever that they have out, and then you have to, a number of the staff are not, there's the pool. Yeah. And then there's staff that don't really leave, that don't work outside the office, so it's a different thing. So it isn't a 1-for-1.
It isn't a 1-for-1. Okay. Just seems like a lot of vehicles. When the vehicles exceed the number of employees, and a whole bunch of them work in the administrative office, it's like, wow, that's a lot of vehicles.
Yeah.
And they're all
We
necessary?
found them there to be necessary, yes. We don't like to keep anything that's not necessary. It just adds to the administrative workload, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So over the past 5 years, the fleet has averaged annually over 1 million miles of travel per year in accomplishing the duties across the district. It should be noted the miles put on district vehicles are not all easily driven highway miles. Some of these routes are very rural, they're very rugged. A lot of the work requires travel to very rural locations across very rugged terrain that require 4-wheel drive. In addition, work often requires frequent stops to open gates, to regulate water, to work with customers, check spills, check water boxes, respond to emergencies. These are not easy travel miles.
So you don't get a lot of miles per gallon?
Right.
Right.
I kind of want to emphasize this, the stress that's put on District 3 is not an average, again, smooth vehicle highway. Some of these places look like the Baja 1000 or the Rubicon in the upper areas where I don't have to travel, so not all easy. The fleet program runs on a budget, and for 2020, there was $813,000 in the budget for them.
Oh, no, wait, see, I didn't see the number, so in your little box here that says budget?
I don't think I actually put it, I don't think I got it on here.
Yeah, because on the next slide, you've got, fleet vehicle life cycle, and then you got budget, but I didn't know what your budget was for.
Yes, so this year, for 2020, $813,000 was in the budget.
Okay.
And that includes staff, that includes chemicals, that includes materials.
Oh, that's the whole budget?
Yeah.
That's not just
That's their total budget,
For
That
maintenance.
includes fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
Yes,
and chemicals, yeah.
fuel, bodies.
So for maintenance, it's the total budget, okay.
Yeah, and where do you generally come in on that budget? Right on budget, or?
It looks like the past couple of years, we've gone a little over, a little under, but I think we're hitting center, we're hitting target,
Well, we've
yeah.
been driving vehicles long enough that we probably have some experience.
I would say so, yes.
Yeah.
Duties performed, the shop schedules, orders parts, records maintenance, processes invoices for the planned maintenance, and, attends to component failures and unplanned repairs, responds out into the field as well. More recently, I think it should be noted that the shop played an integral role in the district's ability to run during the PSP incident. Not only were they, making sure that the fleet vehicles were working so that everyone could continue working, but they were out there performing maintenance on a lot of the all the backup generators that were out in the field that were running heavy. And then there's the regulations that must be adhered to. So they perform the DOD fit inspections that are required within every 90 days for all of the commercial vehicles. They manage the smog and opacity testing for emissions compliance. They often run the inspections when the inspector comes in. And then also are a component of the county hazmat when you get the annual inspection by the county. Of course, spill prevention, maintenance, and storage requirements. So we're going to go over the fleet vehicle life cycling. A vehicle life cycle is similar to that of a human. It has kind of 4 primary stages. There's the introduction when you bring it on. There's the growth, maturity, and decline. So the introduction is really part of our process where you identify the need, you specify what those needs are, you kind of identify a tool that's useful, you budget for it, you procure it. That's kind of the introduction. Growth is actually procuring, and then once you have it in, you kind of outfit it with the required safety components, such as backup alarms or special markings if they're commercial, and then performing the regular routine maintenance and repair. And that regular routine maintenance repair for vehicles is generally a 5,000-mile preventative maintenance in addition to the other repairs that come along. So the span of vehicle life depends upon a number of factors, and those are listed here. It depends on the make and model year and age, the type of usage, the maintenance and repair frequencies, the type of work that it's doing out there. So these are all just components that we consider.
Do you buy anything other than Ford F-150s?
Yes, yes.
Because that's all that was on these things, and I thought, well, is that the only thing?
No, actually, we have some Colorados, some Chevy Colorados, we have a couple Tundras, but it's based on price, and Ford kind of controls the federal, state market.
Yeah, they do.
And up until just recently, the F-150s were a serviceable vehicle. In the last few years, the transmissions are not as good as they have been in the past, and we've seen some bed breakage. So where the grommets, there's a tongue that comes down off the bed and ties to the frame, we've had a number of systematic weld failures, which the guys, they grind them out, they re-weld them, and everything's better. We're just not seeing the level of
quality
F-150 that we used to, and the Tundras are crazy expensive, and we tried to shift to a smaller truck for the customer, because you used to be customer service, for our customer service crew, but the Colorados were way more expensive than a 150, so it was like, well, then you're gonna end up with a 150, and then now the customer service crew is doing meter installs and stuff like that, so they need a full body truck, because they're carrying tools and meters and all that stuff, so, you know, it's just the 150 controls that space. We do a lot of Dodges for our heavies, because the diesels are better, and they'll go longer, so the 550s and the 450s, we have a lot of bandwidth there.
But the reason that we went with F-150 for this study is because we have a lot of them, so we have the data to work with, but we're always looking at newer.
But we buy our trucks mostly on competitive bid.
All of them.
And Ford has always been the low bidder. And so, therefore, if we have a preponderance of Fords, it's not because we have an institutional preference for Ford, it's because they're the low bidder.
No, I figured that. I just wondered why it was, and it's been answered. So.
You know, they're not quite a disposable truck yet, but they're getting there. The other part of it is, interestingly enough, as we move through this, the damage to salvage ratio is going up a lot. So now with the new tailgate, right, if we bump a tailgate, it's $5,000. So you're immediately at salvage. Or we're sending it to recreation where they're going to bump into trees.
Where they don't care about it.
We do care, things happen.
No, it's the nature of their work.
Exactly.
It's tight, it's small, there's people everywhere.
Rocks and trees.
Rocks and trees, and there may not be as much ownership with our transient work population. So, you know, bump into one, bump into two, throw garbage cans in the back, you know, whatever it is. But yeah, it's the F-150s are clearly dominating at this point just because of the value that they bring.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
There we go. Okay. All right, so similar slide, but, okay, so vehicle replacement planning is an art and a science. It requires using both qualitative and quantitative information. I mean, like we were discussing, we look every year at, hey, what's Ford making? What is Chevy making? What is Toyota making? Where are the price points? We're always looking. So in practicing how we're going to replace vehicles, we deploy 3 methods. We don't always use the same one. I mean, if a vehicle gets in an accident, we're not going to use this cost analysis to say that's when we're replacing it. We're going to look at how much does it cost to fix it, and then do we give it to Monica, or do we?
Or do we send it on its way?
Yes. So the 3 methods that we deploy. Yeah. So we do the life cycle cost analysis. We have an established, and out of that, it kind of has presents an established interval that we can use to kind of use for forecasting. There is 2. Life cycle cost analysis and established intervals. Oh, and then the repair cost versus value. So the primary factors influencing the final plan for replacement are age and mileage, condition and repair costs, and regulatory requirements. And then again, this schematic to the right provides a general overview of the planning process and that we use when we're looking to replace. And it has been practiced that usually when we see a vehicle in the F-150 half-ton area, we start looking at replacement around 80,000, we start forecasting and seeing, okay, we're going to
around 80,000, you start.
Not when we replace it, until
Yeah.
we start forecasting, this is how it's going to get done.
Start looking for an old or something.
Is this new for you guys to have done this? Because I think this is really wonderful.
I've been experiencing this for at least 10 years.
This analysis.
This is analysis, it's just new data.
Ah,
It was
okay.
done, Brian did it prior to me.
Oh, okay.
Brian Powell has this down
Yeah.
to.
Oh, okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, maybe some more data, new data, but, yeah, this has been done.
Same methodology, new data,
Yeah.
updated
Mhm.
data.
Yeah. Okay, so here we are.
Gosh, average MPG 13.
So this table provides the vehicles that we used that have been sold in the past, that we have sent, and the replacement. So the next few pages, I'm going to go over that provide insight on why the district performs vehicle replacements on the general schedule that we'll discuss. The table provides, the right provides the data of the most recent vehicles disposed of from the fleet in the F-150 classification. The F-150 right now is one of, if not the most common vehicles that we have in our fleet.
Mm-hmm.
The half-ton model allows for versatility in travel and functionality across all departments. It's used in the day-to-day operations of operators, maintenance department, recreation, hydro, and rec. Again, the list to the right provides information on F-150s recently removed from the fleet. And by recently, I mean probably in the past, well, since 2011. This is the disposal year, to 2019.
I see, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so this is just a data set that we use. With that, we were able to come up with the average age that we find, we are disposing of vehicles, 12 years. The average mile at disposal is 121,508 miles. The average collection we're experiencing is $3,292. Average miles per gallon we're getting is about 12.6, so around it to 13. The average cost per gallon, and we got this from the Energy Information Administration for the federal government, was from the 1999 to 2012.
Do we have our own source of gasoline? Like, do we have tanks and we have someone come and fill it, so?
Yes.
Yeah, we have our own contract.
I figured, okay.
Yes. And the average cost was $3.38. And then, as we move forward, we'll talk about depreciation, but the depreciation we used for the vehicles was 20% the first year, and then 13.5 thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
And this subset here, we used vehicles that were over 80,000 miles, because that gave us a lot of data in terms of what kind of maintenance and repair work was done, and cost. We'll look at the cost to operate, the cost to maintain, the cost of depreciation, and then actual depreciation trend.
And the annual fuel contract, I guess it's now with Sutherland.
I think they have two, I think.
But those are competitively bid.
Yes, they are.
So we get the price at the, from Sacramento as a
Wholesale or
the delivery.
Yeah. Roberts has been trying to break into that deal for a long time. Can't get
They
the
just
right.
have to get competitive.
Exactly. They
So
gotta get the right price. for the right
we've
place.
been playing the fuel market for years,
Mhm.
and we get the best prices available. And
We have very good-
and that contract is a good one for us, because it involves delivery to all our remote locations. So they have to run fuel up to Bowman, and God knows, or
Bowman
Drum.
Road has the tank,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
oh, and Bowman,
They,
actually Bowman's
they-
Roadhouse.
Phone, our house.
And so they have to figure in their bid the cost of delivery to,
Bowman Powerhouse.
yeah,
Mhm.
Hell's backyard.
In the winter.
in the
Yeah,
winter.
exactly, with snowshoes. A little pile of them.
So they tow in 5-gallon cans of gas into the Bowman Power.
Oh,
Jeez.
no.
Are these underground tanks that we have? They're all above ground.
Above ground, but they have containment structures around them, that's the
Yeah.
standard. That's
I would
the
imagine
standard
it'd be
structure,
standard
so that
containment.
if there's a tank rupture,
Yeah.
the thing is self-contained.
ABTs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this next page, just pointing out that the table on the right is actually the vehicles that are currently also in service, and we are using that information in addition to perform the analysis. Again, these vehicles were used for the analysis because they have that information, they're over 80,000 miles on the vehicle, so they give us a good data set for maintenance and operation costs. Let's see, so, this table shows the trend of fuel consumption over the life of the F-150s. The average miles per gallon were calculated using the total number of gallons, or the total number of miles that the vehicle had on at leaving the district, over the number of gallons that were consumed in the data set that we have. So, I think how many vehicles we had there? We had about 14 or 15 vehicles in the data set that we had. Yeah, okay. So again, with the average disposal of about 121,000 miles and 12 years of ownership, the average miles per year put on the vehicle was 10,500. Using the total miles at disposal divided by that number of gallons consumed, the average that we got was 12.57, so we round to 13. That gives us the average annual cost of fuel per vehicle at about, for the F-150, at about $2,840.
I would have thought the miles per year would have been higher than 10,000.
And again, it depends on who's driving, what route they're on, where they're going, what projects are happening in what location. Projects that may require crews in office versus
Sure.
out of city.
No, I get it. It's just that it seemed like a low number. I mean, I drive more miles than that.
Yeah.
Well, the national average, right, is 15,000 a year.
Yeah. So it's just, that seemed low for, monitoring 450 miles of canal stuff.
Well, there's certain individuals inside the pool that are getting slammed and other ones that
Yeah.
aren't, right?
Yeah. And some of those pools just stay in the recreation for half the year, so there is that.
Okay.
So the next table,
The maintenance.
maintenance cost. So this trend shows the maintenance cost over the life of the F-150s. The red line shows, again, the average of all the vehicles in the analysis. The maintenance cost includes the labor, hour costs, and materials for maintenance, such as oil changes, brakes, tires, transmission, and engine repairs. The average annual cost per vehicle was $1,495. The major peaks that we see in here, just to kind of point out those major peaks, were transmission events, transmission replacement events. Some towards the end, where, a vehicle may go to Monica, and Monica may say, it's worth me putting in an additional couple thousand than you just sending it out, so we can better it for recreation. It's cheaper than buying totally new vehicle. That's where you see those higher peaks at the, past the 100,000 mark.
So as I remember from Brian's analysis, tracking the maintenance costs with the life of the vehicle, that once you got to around 100,000 miles, your incidence of major repair and major expenses goes up.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a hump. So if you get past that, then you get to be like me, and you drive your 1988 Toyota pickup truck for 500,000 miles, and it gets really cheap again. But there's a point there where things wear out, and it's expensive. And then it's an economic decision. Do we fix it, or do we cut it off?
Exactly.
And so the conclusion that we've come to in the past in this committee at the district is that at around 100,000 miles, it's actually cheaper to surplus the vehicle.
Okay.
So we pushed that frugality point out of 20,000 by creating this rotation. Right. So at 80, we start looking for greener pastures so that they can move into a lighter duty situation. We bring the new trucks in.
So it extends the life.
But you never keep them to 300,000 miles like we do.
No, by then, the funny thing is, the interior is totally garbage.
Shot.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the problem when you have people driving them all the time who don't actually own the vehicle. Or when there's multiple people using the vehicle, they don't all have the same
care
level of ownership of that vehicle. And that's why, in the past, we have assigned trucks to individuals, because then the care that people take tends to be a little better.
Well, the condition of work also is a factor, for the condition of the interior. And guys are out in all weathers, in all conditions, in the mud, and they're trying to go from one place to another, they're hopping in, and this, you know, the abrasiveness of the dirt and everything in there is wearing. What we're seeing after 100,000 is just, I mean, springs are coming out. Recreation can take springs for a short period of time. They can have garbage.
We buy them Mexican.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so this slide, this is a slide that depicts the depreciation cost from year to year. Of course, depreciation is the loss of value over time, and so this just shows the loss of that value for each vehicle. Again, we did a moderate rate, so 20% loss in value in first year, and then 13.5 thereafter. This yielded an average annual cost of depreciation at $1,340. And then the table, or the graph to the right, that depicts the end total of costs that we were able to acquire with the data that we had. Operational, maintenance, and depreciation costs. So yield the overall cost of each vehicle over time.
No, I don't have that slide, but you've got the three preceding slides right there that we do have, right? No, the next, where you were, that
Do we
slide.
not have this slide?
No, we don't have that slide.
It was in the,
No,
because I printed it off with the,
it's not even so.
okay.
It's not in, so that's okay, but I see that
You got depreciated.
that the column over here to the left,
Yes.
is, we do have those individual
Okay.
slides.
Great. All right. So what you basically do is take all of those and add them together to get the table to the right, which is the end total cost. And so then the average annual overall cost was $5,463. Of course, it's not experienced. That's the average across the board. And then again, with demands and age influence actually impacting each individual cost each year. Okay. So this next slide is the depreciation trends. I think I found them.
Well, but the point here is that we're showing you that the disposal collection cost and the value of the vehicle are equal.
Yes.
And so the basic economics, right, we've hit the cross point, it's time to get rid of the car.
Interesting. Okay.
And so here is a table that kind of compiles everything together. So we have the uppermost line, that, I guess, reddish orange, that is the depreciation trends. And then you want to take a look at that blue uppermost line, and that is the total cost. The bottom three lines are the individual costs, the operational, maintenance, and then depreciation costs. But that blue line is kind of the trend you want to look at in addition to the depreciation trends. So again, the orange line provides the rate of depreciation. The blue line provides the overall annualized cost over time, which again is the sum of operation, maintenance, and depreciation costs. Now, I want to point out point A. This is the point where the lowest annualized cost is experienced. It's around 77,000 miles on the vehicle.
Interesting.
And that's in some practice.
It's the lowest annualized
It's the
cost.
lowest annualized cost where that lowest annualized cost is experienced. And that is sometimes the practice is to target that as the point at which you would remove a vehicle from a fleet. Others practice that. So we'll go over what we practice. This kind of lays out what we do. So again, that is the sum cost, where the sum cost reaches its minimum point, and they call it the economic life is reached. We go beyond that with our practices. This is sometimes where entities, including the federal government, they consider replacement justifiable.
And B, B is in the line of B?
A.
Oh, at A, okay,
Yeah.
77, okay.
Yeah, and well, I will say the federal government is 80,000, that's what they say, okay, at 80,000 is justifiable to get rid of a vehicle. So we're kind of, we're on par with, you know. at least what a larger entity would look at, and others.
The feds are so cost conscious. Yes.
They have a larger data set, I will go with and say that.
Well, that's because they have a printing press.
They do have a printing press,
Yeah.
yes.
But it also makes, consider a replacement where the point of depreciation trend and so the orange line, the depreciation
Mhm.
trend, and the blue line where they intersect, that's usually a good point of consideration, which falls close to where, the 100,000 comments is, although it's just over 90. It's not far where the district line has been practicing, where it was get rid of it at 100,000. So I want to point out from B to C, that 80,000 to 100,000, this is kind of what we call the replacement period, the replacement planning period. We start forecasting at that around 80,000, that, hey, we're going to have to get rid of this, let's start shopping, what do we need, what's out there, what's available. By the time we get to that 100,000 miles, about 20,000 miles, we've gone through a budget and we're going through procurement. Then when we get from that C to D, which is 100,000 to 120, that's when it's gone and been reassigned to fleet. In general, that's when it's been reassigned to fleet. It's getting repurposed, used in recreation, used
Right, flushing crews,
Flushing
used by
crews,
any of the temporary staff.
storm patrol,
Yeah.
Great, actually, really great information.
Yeah, so what I'm picking up from this is, the analysis that Brian did years ago is good, and you're not really recommending any changes in the methodology, and
correct,
the past practices have been adequate, and we're recommending to continue.
correct. This falls in line with a similar practice that we've had.
Right, it's important that you guys know this, I mean, because there has been a modification to the practice, Nick, and that was at 100,000, they just let the vehicle go,
Right.
right? We're pushing those
There's a little
vehicles
more
in addition.
refined, there's a little more refined now.
Yeah, there's still, we think we can we have successfully squeezed the life out of these trucks a little bit further, right? Because as we approach that hump on the cost, right, that pitch point, clearly we're reaching the crescendo of the vehicle. And so we're able to get another 20,000, so if you look at this data, I can get 2 more years
You
out.
want to avoid that
Right.
big inevitable hump.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Right.
the transmission failure is kind of the
The thing that
thing that forces them to go, right? And but in that case, where I want the staff to be thinking isn't just transmission's dead, junk it, is look at the interior, look at the exterior. If we put a $1,300 to $2,800 transmission in it, it can go and service and be in the pool. It's a more relaxed duty work, whatever, and it can live over there for a while before we send it on its way. So, I think the thing is that when I got here, it was more of a blind process. It's this number, it's gone, right? And Lowell Robinson let me know that he was unhappy with the fact that I had changed the name of the case. He always bought the trucks for nothing on the back lot. So, as we prepare for the 2021 budget, it's important that this committee understand how we do this and why we do it, because you'll see that, maintenance has got a number of trucks that's coming, the other departments are all looking for their trucks, and you can say, okay, when you're sitting at the board and they're saying, because you'll see, they'll tell you the mileage that it has and all that stuff, and now you can think, oh, yeah, and you can support and we can help staff support the board when the question comes up, well, why are you buying another truck? And we can say, well,
right. So is this something that, it seems to me that what you're just describing is really important, that this could come before the full board, just as an informational item, because there's 3 other members then that haven't had the benefit of seeing this.
Right, but that's the point of the committee.
No, I know, but...
They could, if the board president would like us to bring that before the board.
Well, I don't know, I just think it's really, really good.
Yeah.
But, Nick has seen it probably 100 times, so I don't know that he means...
Probably only 5.
Only 5, okay. Well, we can talk about that when you're done, so,
Okay.
sorry for interrupting.
I think this is important information because a criticism that I have heard from many, many people that said, oh, those NID employees, they've just got dozens of these brand-new trucks sitting around on their lot doing nothing, and they're just out there leaning on their shovels, driving brand-new trucks. There is a rationale behind it.
And the thing is that that perception is not the reality.
Of course it's
right?
not.
Well, and we know, your gut knows it's not the reality, but this backs that up with real data. And that's the only reason I was thinking it might be useful just as an informational item for the board, so that everybody gets, oh yeah, no, this is what we do, and this is how it's done.
We have a process.
So this presentation is now memorialized on the website.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, you can continue.
Okay.
Sorry.
So this is a rundown of the process and kind of the schedule. What we're looking at, in general, each department is looking at their fleet inventory prior to budget, looking at how many miles they have on it. Generally around quarter two is when we kind of look at what we have and where we think we're going to end up with, and what we're going to need with the following year's based on budget schedule. So again, in quarter two, we're also identifying the candidates for replacements, looking at those needs. Can we take it another year? What are the mileage that we're seeing on those? And that's generally done per department. They're kind of identifying, here's what we're going to have to budget for next year. The quarter 2 to 3, discussing the needs with the user. Again, shopping to see what other models, makes and models have out there, what other kind of functionality they have. And then we're always doing condition assessments on the vehicles. Every quarter, all the vehicles are getting inspected by the driver, either by an assigned driver or by someone in the fleet of their pool, or Recreation has a number, and they'll be doing the quarterly inspections. So that way, they're getting looked at every quarter, even if they're in the pool and they're not driven as much as maybe the other vehicles. But they're getting looked at, so we can say, okay, that one's just really bad. It's going to go, it's going to get replaced by this one. Just helps the planning process. So, and it's a safety item to have the inspections done each quarter.
May I stray slightly from the agenda? Vehicles are a significant energy consumption within the district. And so the district has, we generate a ton of energy in hydro. We use a ton of energy. We have a huge monthly PG&E bill. We use it for pumping and all kinds of other things. We drive a lot of vehicles around. I have said in the past, and I will say again, that I think it would be of interest for the district to do a district-wide energy audit to see how our net energy footprint stacks up.
That would be interesting. That would be interesting.
And I've said this before, and staff kind of roll their eyes and think, oh, God, that's going to be really hard.
Actually, no, we had, Sierra Business Council's completed one for facilities. We haven't done one for rolling stock.
But, I guess I'm kind of a big picture guy, and you need to look at the overall impact. I have said to people many times in the past that I believe that the district's energy footprint is probably close to zero, if not positive. And I think that would be a very interesting number to actually come up with and document.
It can be. It isn't. Right?
We're negative, we're not positive.
Yeah, we're negative, we're not positive. The problem is I think at this point, Nick, we're relying on PG&E for our energy portfolio. So there's a certain portion of it that isn't green that we could make green.
And there are certain decisions that we could make that would impact that.
Absolutely.
That number.
Yeah, we've talked a number of times,
And so
especially.
So that needs to be sort of a guiding principle in making decisions going forward.
Well, I think the sustainability, when we started this, we started with a sustainability policy last year.
Yes.
right? And we got that done in the summer, and it was supposed to be the jump-off point for the sustainability team to continue to move forward. The idea being that we would get to a place where we were carbon-free water, meaning that no carbon was expended, and then look for an opportunity to create a carbon sink so that we could then be truly carbon negative as an organization across the board. Those activities have stalled out as we've entered into other events, but it's clearly, the stage is set. The committee is still, it's on hiatus at this point, but that's something that clearly the board has given direction on, I think, and I think that, yeah, it's definitely something we can work on in the future, for sure. I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, it is the right thing to do.
So I support the idea because A, it is the right thing to do. B, it's a good public relations talk point, in my view.
And so in July, when the Scotts Flat Powerhouse comes off of its contract, and we go on to the RSBCT contract, then all district facilities will be getting renewable power 24/7. So that'll slide our fixed facilities across the board. The next thing we have to address is the magnitude of our rolling stock. And so, something that we need to program into our fleet is clearly moving to charged vehicles or hybrid vehicles. Something that we tried a few years back. We have had hybrid vehicles in the fleet, but they didn't really take off, and the providers weren't out there. But I think that we're rapidly moving to a place in the electric vehicle market where we can have bolts and stuff like that for staff. The trick is trucks and heavy equipment. But the decision the board will need to make in the future is, with that rolling stock, what credits are we going to buy, right? So that we can purchase down that carbon, and so we've got the carbon forests that NISA has been working on, right? So if we can put out our own carbon credits and collect them from ourselves, and then we can say we're growing 10,000 acres of trees. That offsets all of our heavy equipment stock. We bought, whatever, a couple hundred tons worth of carbon credits for our rolling stock, and plus, and then all of our fixed facilities are carbon free. We don't pump, none of that stuff.
Yeah, I don't mean to belabor this point, and I realize that it's a little bit off the agenda.
No, I don't.
And that's one of the nice things about committees, because you can stray a little bit from the agenda. But I think it's a very important thing that we need to keep in our sights.
I don't think it's a straying. I think that what we're here to talk about is
fun point, actually.
So if we bring that whole thought process back, fleet, as the committee continues to move forward in 2021, to have an open discussion about the fleet and about how we want to start migrating certain components of the fleet away from carbon, away from 13 miles per gallon, right? I mean, there are clearly performance measures available to us through this data set that Jacqueline and her crew have put together that we can say we want nothing less than 15 gallons per mile. We want, and how do we get that? Okay, staff, figure out which pool vehicles we can shrink and change and then plan, right? I mean, in the end, as the vehicle of power here is the budget.
Right.
And so as we start entering into the 2021 talk, and the maintenance and recreation come to this committee to talk about their 21 budget, we can prognosticate using this data to say, all right, you got 200 plus vehicles. If I want to get to this number, how do I start
save some money there?
How do I start putting that in a box? Okay, so yeah, if you're going to get rid of a car, we're going to make it so that the district will only seek hybrid vehicles for all those vehicles that are not necessarily maintenance vehicles, but are administrative staff rolling stock.
Well, as a matter of policy, I suppose the board could try and set a policy goal for miles per gallon of fuel efficiency and so on, where we try and up the efficiency of the fleet, because that is A, the right thing to do, and B, it does have financial implications.
Yeah, and there's a couple ways to get there, right? And you could say, okay, look, we're gonna, as we phase out pieces of equipment, as we phase out Monica's Explorer, we're gonna get a hybrid Highlander.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more expensive, but we get 30 miles to the gallon as opposed to 16 miles to the gallon.
Right.
Right, but we're gonna wait till that transition event. So we're not losing the value that we've already put into the vehicle.
Correct.
We know that if we go back to the slide that has the life cycle cost, that one, we know that we're hitting that low point of apogee. As we hit that point, we're gonna start making those decisions and start transitioning our fleet. And we're gonna, because there's another piece to this, and that is the amount of employees that are bringing their own vehicles to work.
Mm-hmm.
How do we incentivize them to get an electric vehicle? Well, the way that every other organization is doing it is you put free charging stations out front.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, come on in, right? Because then it's our power,
Right.
So Scotts Flat would be energizing, not technically, but Scotts Flat's power would be energizing those meters or those charging stations, and then staff would come in, charge up, and off they go. I mean, there are ways, but then, again, these all come to a monetary point, right? These charging stations were $15,000. What is, to be environmentally sensitive, what is it, you said democracy is not it's not cheap or something like that.
Democracy is expensive.
But the thing is, to be truly environmental in that way, it's going to cost us more than the other way, right? Ford is beating us. As long as Ford's going to put out an F-150 for $20,000, and we can't buy a hybrid vehicle for less than $30,000 or $40,000, that's a financial business decision.
Yeah, that's right. And then you look, miles per gallon and cost of gas and, pretty
In terms of how we invest our money, I would like to see us invest our money to become more efficient, et cetera, because absent that, it's just lip service. It's just baloney.
If you're going to walk it, you got to walk it.
And we got plenty of baloney out there coming.
No, I think it's an important opportunity for an organization such as NID to develop a certain amount of leadership and show how it can be done, right? So that there can be off-takers, much like our Mercury project.
And frankly, what it costs.
Yeah.
What are the implications to the bottom line?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree,
all right.
100%. Okay.
I'll get off my soapbox, sorry.
Thank you, Monica. I think we've asked our questions all the way along.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Jay?
Okay, do
Thanks,
we
Jackie.
have any public
Thank you,
comment?
Jackie, that was great.
One hand.
Thank you. Really appreciate seeing the data and, and it's like, it puts it in context, like as Nick was saying, the bigger picture, we get to really see. So I appreciate that.
And I can see Brian smiling over your shoulder.
Well, it's good
Nice.
to see that. All right.
Thank you.
We have to be a bit flexible.
Public comment, go ahead.
Phone number 755.
755? All right.
Public comment?
Somebody got their hand raised. Okay.
It's already muted.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Oh, okay.
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 Excellent.
We will close item number 3 and move on to item number 4. Well, close 2 and move on to 3. Yeah, it's going fast. We're going to receive an update on the Integrated Vegetation Management Program from Jackie.
Okay. Again, good morning, committee, staff members of the public. Here this morning to give an update on the district's Integrated Vegetation Management Program and project. I think we're all interested, so I'll just get right into the phase 3,
let's get into the meat of it.
glyphosate study. So the phase 3 study, which focused on alternative herbicides that were identified in phase 2 and 1. So during phase 3, we were looking at the opportune, weed slayer, and bites. The final alternative herbicide applications were performed on March 6th, with follow-up monitoring and data collection events completed March 12th, 30th, and 28th. We plan on bringing the final report presentation in July. So we've gotten all the data, we have all the information, now it's just compiling it into the report and bringing it in July.
So I have a question about these herbicide alternatives. Were these the ones that were identified in Amigo Bob's report?
Yes.
That's what I kind of remembered it that they were. And then the other thing I remember about that report is that it was really imperative about when you know, the timing of when you did the application. And so you're feeling like this was the right timing.
Yes.
Okay.
We followed the protocol that was laid out in phase 2 in step with the consultants that were on at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And goats.
Next item, goat grazing.
I love the goats.
Annual goat grazing of vegetation at district facilities is anticipated for being scheduled for mid-June. Goat grazing is planned for the Cunningham and Sugarloaf reservoirs this year. We received 2 quotes for goat grazing vendors, and we're currently in the process of negotiating the contract and setting the schedule.
So goat grazing works well on reservoir berms and stuff like that, whereas more of a postage stamp area.
Yes.
It doesn't work so well along canal ditch banks and so on. It takes a lot of portable
supervision
fencing.
Yes, lots of portable supervision, fencing.
So we tried this last year.
We tried this 17 or 18, I believe the district tried it on a portion of canal. It was quite challenging. And there was concern with wastewater getting in the canal system and causing more vegetation control issues. So, as they put their droppings in the water, the algae potential.
We're becoming experts at that entire cycle.
Exactly. All the way around.
Oh, yeah. Many animals. Yeah, I think in talking to the bidder, he underbid that project in terms of... Yeah, so we'll have to revisit that one in time, but we have plenty of work at other facilities to utilize this process, and it's worked.
Yeah, I used to live at
campgrounds. They've done a great job.
So you need to have many tools in tool.
Exactly.
And that is the whole intent of the IBM program, which is to use many different options and methods. So, okay. And then moving on to the glyphosate cost study. The request for proposal for a study of the costs of eliminating glyphosate from the district IBM program, the RFP was put out on May 15th. The study is to produce a thorough investigation of the available alternatives and the costs associated with the deployment of those alternatives instead of using glyphosate. The study is also expected to implement a survey of other entities in California that have discontinued that use to gain that information, insight on how their program has been impacted by making that decision.
And so you have not awarded the bid yet?
We have not.
You've gone out to bid?
The RFP has been out. We've received questions.
That's exciting.
We've responded to questions, and we expect the study report is anticipated for September of 2020.
Awesome. That means we're ready for budget. Okay.
Yeah, that is. That's great. I'm really
pleased.
pleased
Want to bring those other 2 items back to the committee?
to know that.
Phase 3 report and...
No, we had Nautique and we had...
Okay.
Or there were 2 other studies, I'm sure.
The ones that we've already done?
No, the ones that we took out of the budget.
Oh, okay.
I want to try those again.
Okay.
So then this will come back to this committee as you, each one of these, like the phase 3 study you said will come back in 2020, and then the results of the goat grazing there and the glyphosate study, will those come back to this committee and then the board, or to the full board?
They always come here first.
They always come here first, because I would think the full board would want to see the glyphosate, because there's a lot of discussion, as we know, out in the community about glyphosate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Questions?
There will be.
Public comment?
Yes. 7068.
7068.
Good morning. This is Sid Brown.
Morning, Sid.
Morning, Sid.
Good morning. Thank you for the report. I'm on the phone, not in Zoom video, but I do have a question. Ricky or Director Tech, you talked about or made reference to Amigo Bob's report. Is that a public report? Because I went on the Veg Management website and I have not been able to find out any information about that.
So on the Vegetation Control website, on the right-hand side, there's a column, and it lists the documents. There's a Phase 1 study report as well as a Phase 2 study report listed there.
Okay, but it wasn't identified as Amigo Bob, so I see that. Thanks.
Well, there were several consultants. I think of it as Amigo Bob, you know, just kind of
He was one of three.
offhandedly. But yeah, he was one of several who worked on it. So was there a consultant organization that they actually called themselves? Or
No,
No,
they were
it was
separate.
multiple.
Yeah, they were all separate. So it should be there, Sid.
All right, no, I see those two reports and I've seen them in the past, but I was just wondering if there was something separate that I was not aware of.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing.
Okay, great, thank you. Oh, and Jackie, if you could try to remember to speak up as much as possible. When one's listening, your voice is very difficult to hear sometimes, so thank you.
Thanks for letting me know.
And we're getting a new Qualcomm system, so it'll work better here shortly.
Good.
Okay, thank you, I'm done.
Other
Okay,
comments?
3755.
Hey, Mike Pasner.
Morning, Mike.
That's me, Mike Pasner.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm glad we're doing the part of the study for the glyphosate reduction. I wish we'd done it 3 years ago at the start of the Integrated Vegetation Management Working Group. It could have been a very valuable part of our research. I see, and I think that Rem just mentioned this, there's still no action reducing or analyzing copper herbicide use directly into ditch water. And once again, it would be good to do a full analysis, full as in insurance, everything, of the small excavator management versus herbicide use. We already use these excavators all over the place. The full study would include insurance, economic costs, drivers versus carbon for sprays, let's say. That's something that's real. The sprays are herbicides, and they are made from oil, and they therefore have a carbon impact. Rem did mention something about recontinuing the studies about the copper and the excavators. I'd like to hear a little more about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My point was just that those studies were removed from the 2020 budget, and I would like to have them.
Oh, like to have the studies put back into the
2021
yeah.
budget.
So they're removed as part of the cost cutting.
Correct. Right, so we had to choose which
Sure,
was the most
got it.
important, and at the point, it seemed that glyphosate was the most important.
Mhm.
We have the other two put back in the 21 budget, and we'll be able to bring that here and have a discussion.
Got it, okay.
Okay, we will close item number 3 and move on to 4, watershed and grants.
On the phone.
Lisa, you need to unmute yourself.
Just yell out.
I have. Can you hear me?
There you are. Hi, Nathan. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to call in about watershed and grants updates. As you can see from this report, I've been very focused since our last meeting on hazard tree removal and fire fuels treatment. We kind of early in the year started by doing some hazard tree removal up at our Snow Mountain Tank site. Then we moved over to our Scotts Flat Gate 2 campground area, where I believe we're up to maybe 70 or 80 trees, with many smaller trees that have been removed. The majority of this work has been part of a partnership grant with the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. Through the Sierra Nevada Conservancy, we have a $981 $1,000 grant to treat approximately 300 acres around the Scotts Flat Reservoir. The forest continues to demonstrate incredible density and stress, as well as an elevated fire risk to our facility, our campgrounds, and the community. So we've really focused on the Scotts Flat area. We have completed almost 150 acres of mastication and hazard tree removal up there. That's what these two photographs, the pre and post-treatment photos, are illustrating here. We are working carefully to achieve our objectives for reduced forest stress, reduced wildfire risk, as well as maintaining the ambiance, the environment, and also addressing, for instance, access. As you will see, some of the trees that are left along the road edge are intended to make sure that we're as careful as we can to reduce the potential for vehicles to drive onto district lands, et cetera. We can't always achieve that, so we're working with Monica because that continues to impact our facilities where we don't manage for that. PG&E is continuing their line hardening work. They are active everywhere. During the COVID shutdown, I think we saw probably more PG&E related vehicles on the road than anybody else, hands down. They are working around our Scotts Flat Reservoir, our Rollins reservoirs, everywhere in between. So we're busy working with them to ensure that our facilities are protected, that cleanup is occurring, that repairs are occurring. Moving through, we've also earlier this spring worked with our leaseholders for grazing. Grazing is an effective way to address in our mid-elevation areas in the oak woodlands, the grass growth. We have 3 active grazing leases that are between Grass Valley and North Auburn. We have 1 small new lease that we just put in place. This will be on a 1-year renewal term. Many of our leases are on a 5-year term. This is a 1-year term, and we're just trying it out. Everyone is aware of the importance of putting their cattle out early. We use photo documentation and site visits to ensure that our grounds are maintained and that sensitive areas are protected. There are no impacts to water quality, et cetera. In addition to the forestry that we have been doing, I'm just trying to jump through this fairly quickly for you. We had spent by early in January all of the CAL FIRE California Forest Improvement Grant dollars that we had received. That's the CFIP grant. We have a California Forest Improvement Plan written for the parcels around Rollins Reservoir and many of the areas up by Scotts. We're using that to facilitate additional funding. We have $145,000 that should be available to us by July through CAL FIRE, where we will do additional fire fuels treatment and hazard tree removal at Orchard Springs Campground and Long Ravine Campground. We've already worked on the Peninsula Campground, so I'm working with Monica and her staff to identify the highest priority areas in our campground and reservoir areas, and to get in there to reduce our fuel loading. And we're now starting to take a pretty meaningful bite out of it. I think we're starting to feel like we're getting somewhere, but it has taken maybe 4 real focused years to get here. In addition, because this program is broader in scope than just forest health and wildfire management and resilience, we developed a Wildlife Conservation Board pre-application for roughly $1 million that would allow us to take the Upper Yuba Headwaters English Meadow project forward from the design phase through CEQA, and to actually do some work on the ground up there to address the erosion within the Middle Yuba River upstream of Jackson Meadows Reservoir, and to do some enhancement work that would put in-stream structures in place and to reconnect the river to its floodplain. So that project, it's at the pre-application stage. We should hear within the next month if they invite back a full application. And the Wildlife Conservation Board is very interested in our project and concept, and they've indicated if they invite us back for a full application, they're funding about 50% of the applicants. So hopefully we end up in that pool. It was very exciting.
I know, really.
Okay, so other, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doctor.
Who do we need to lobby to make sure that the grants move?
To us as opposed to someone else. The Wildlife Conservation Board, I guess, is what I'm asking.
And then that is the entity. So let me look into that, Rem, and I will, I'll figure out who do we, because already the project really speaks volumes for itself in terms of the potential for enhancement to really be meaningful and make a change, as well as the existing areas that are incredibly high quality, our fen and bog communities, the location, all of it's part of this mosaic of montane meadow environments that are being restored from Perazo Meadows, which is just over the ridge line. And it piggybacks on the North Yuba project, as well as the Central Sierra Initiative through the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. So everyone was nodding along. Whether or not it gets selected as a pre-application is always a different question. So let me think that through, and I will get back to you on how do we help to nudge this one forward to the front of the line.
Yeah, I think there's probably some ways, and if they're funding 50%, you know, there might be some open folks to listen to why we think this is more important and we should be in the 50% that's chosen. Right?
Okay. What?
Great. Thank you.
Wonderful. And what I would like to do, if there's time or when it's appropriate, is bring to committee a presentation on the Upper Yuba Headwaters project that includes English Meadow. We have just about a complete draft of our forest management plan for that area. That's a grant-funded planning document through the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. I would love to bring it forward in committee when we have time on our agenda in June or July possibly, so I can show you what we've developed, the information we have. We've been investing in that area now for 3 field seasons. So we have wonderful floral and faunal information. We've got groundwater information. We've got all kinds of measurements and data. Our hydro folks went up and installed a stream gauge. So we have pre-project stream flow and water temperature data. I'd love to bring it forward. So I'll put that out there, and I'll work to find a spot with Monica and whomever. Okay, and the last piece is jumping down to our outreach, collaboration, and education activities. There were 2 short pieces that I found. We've worked with Trina Kleist on and off. She's a local, I want to say reporter. I'm not sure if that's exactly.
Freelance journalist.
There we go. Thank you. And we've worked with Trina on and off a number of times. And as part of her work in the last year, she came and interviewed us and put together 2 pieces. So I wanted to make sure you had the information to find those through this Hitchcock project through University of Nevada, Reno. So we have 2 pieces there, as well as the, in terms of a regional scale activity we're sustaining, it's the CABI plan is finally, the administrative draft is in its public release. It's available online at the cabiregion.org site, and comments are due by the end of this month. And we are working to prepare NID projects for submission in that process. That is a long incoming updating of the CABI plan. I think that is it for me for now. And also, actually, one last piece is we are able to start doing some selective thinning on what we call the island at Scotts Flat. It's between the dam and the spillway. We have an open timber harvest plan, and we have a contract with Frank Dial Logging from last year. And he hasn't been working in that area for a while, but he's pushing in now. We've got a purchase agreement for the logs. We've had Kevin Whitlock, the registered professional forester that we work with. He went out, he marked every tree that will be thinned out. That's the last piece that needs to be treated to complete what we're calling a cross-canyon fuel break. So we've treated from the Pasquale roadside on Cascade Shores side to that dam and up through the Gate 1 campground. And that's a strategic fire fuel break that protects our facilities and the communities in the case of a wind-driven event. And it also will result in a healthier forest where Kevin has gone out and carefully marked the trees for removal, selecting the strongest and the healthiest trees to keep. And that's all aligned with its concept of building a healthier forest that will sequester more carbon and sustain itself better over the decades to come.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yes.
Good work.
Oh, it's been great. It's been very busy since the beginning of the year.
Thank you.
Public comment? No? Okay. We will close item 4, move on to 5, maintenance
Thank you.
activities report. Jackie?
Okay. All right. Good morning. So first off, I'll kind of go over some of the emergency responses that we've had during this period. On February 24th, crew repaired an emergency mainline leak on Upper Slade Creek Road. On March 17th, performed an emergency service line repair on Ridge Road. On April 25th, crew responded to an emergency call out to remove a plug on the Columbia Overflow Canal. Went out there and got that unplugged, got the canal flowing again. On May 7th, a crew repaired an emergency mainline break in the Deer Park neighborhood. On Friday, May 8th, a crew responded to emergency mainline break caused by a contractor excavation in the Lake Wildwood system.
I have a couple of questions about that.
Uh-huh.
So what would cause, well, I mean, obviously the one from the contractor, but what would, like in the Deer Park neighborhood, what would cause an emergency mainline break? Construction or?
Well, these ones I think were age of the infrastructure.
Uh-huh.
You never know what kind of geologic event may cause some kind of interruption to the service, and then it is discovered, and then we have to do a shutdown so that way we can get it repaired. That's usually what constitutes it as an emergency, is we got to go respond to it right away. You'll notice that on the tables that are in the back, it'll say that we just had one emergency call out. That one emergency is when crews are off of work and then they have to come back in. These ones were identified at the beginning, end of the day, but they're emergencies because we have to shut off people's water to fix it.
Did anyone here see in the Union newspaper this last week someone griping about our work at Upper Slate Creek and Ridge Road?
Yes.
And the minute I read that, I jumped in my car and drove up there, and I couldn't see anything that they were complaining about. So did we already take care of the complaint by the time it showed up in the newspaper? Or was it like?
Well, it was unknown.
It was unknown.
Contact was we tried to make contact with the individual that made the complaint, to kind of let them know the debris and the material that was left there was actually due to construction of another, I believe it was an AT&T contractor that was performing work in that area.
Yes, a lot of times that stuff happens.
But we had responded to an emergency caused by that contractor. And so, but there was other work happening, so I think they saw us there.
Was it up that little sort of side gravel road?
Yes.
It was
He was contractor excavating up the road and across Ridge Road.
And across Ridge, okay.
And so that was their job, but we went out there to fix it.
Yeah, by the time it was in the newspaper, I literally, the day I saw it, I jumped on my car and went up and looked, and it was like, there was nothing there, so it had been taken care of by whomever.
A board members all received a letter from John Norton recently. He's complaining about failures in the Lake Wildwood system and so on. I'd just like an update on what's going on there. I remember years ago, a chaparral loop was scheduled for replacement. Other things came in front of it. I thought it was, and I just want some confirmation or correction.
We'll be ready to address Mr. Norton's letter tomorrow.
Okay, well then, but may I think? I thought it was determined that the chaparral loop was actually not that bad, and the problems there were mostly related to service connections, and we've been systematically replacing service connections in that area?
I know last year we spent a number of days out there replacing service lines on the Chaparral Loop,
Right.
so I haven't heard any.
So not
Issues with
mainline
it.
distribution.
So it wasn't mainline.
It's not mainline.
No, these are
It's-
contractor connections up to the meter and beyond.
And we've been replacing those systematically. That was my understanding.
Correct.
And that's what I told John, that, we've been replacing those, that it was determined that the main line was not as bad as we thought. He said, oh, it's 50 years old, it's falling apart, when are you gonna come replace all this? I guess what I told him was that, get in line. We just spent 5 years replacing Cascade Shores full water system, and then we spent 2-3 years replacing the Penn Valley system because fire hydrants were producing 5 gallons a minute. Not particularly ideal.
Spent 2 years fixing the Bear River Pine system. and
So,
replaced that entirely.
so my response was get in line.
And you want us to come rip up your roads?
No, because they want to put in gas. That's what they do want us to come rip up the road. They want us to pay for the ditches to put in their gas lines.
Oh, well, that's not how that works.
I understand that, but I've had those conversations. So there's, and if we can't put our gas lines in that ditch, then at least we can put their fiber optic lines.
Broadband.
So that we can bring in high-speed internet to them at our cost. So this issue will be addressed tomorrow?
Yeah, the letter will be,
Cool.
That's right. Okay.
Okay. So moving on to some general items. Crew members completed voter safety training during this period, as well as participated in the CMMS focus group meetings regarding the workflow process for the CMMS program. Some highlights, I just go over highlights. Construction crews, so they continued work on the Long Ravine pipeline replacement project. They completed installation of all the main line. Now it's just working on the pump building and some fencing around the tanks. Looking up the tanks set up, and they're getting those pumped up. The crew also began construction on the Lister Cypress Hill pipeline replacement project, going well. There's lots of rock, slow digging.
Weddington Hill.
Yes, and there's gas and sewer lines that we're also trying to avoid in that system, so it's taking a little bit more time. The crew also performed the snow removal and patrolling during the winter storms, replaced the drain valve at Snow Mountain Tank, installed new wheels on the sludge rake in the sedimentation basin at the E. George treatment plant. So the facilities crew, in addition to all the routine landscaping and maintenance that these guys are doing all over the district, they also assisted with the Long Ravine pipeline replacement project. They installed and formed and poured concrete, the settings for the 24 hose bibs, 14 pressure reducing devices, 2 mainline valves, and 6 air relief valves. They also worked on installation and painting of the pump building, new ceiling and siding up at the tanks. They've also been doing some work on the Scott Flat Ditch Tender House with painting, internal painting, and putting up doors, fixtures, and trim. And then, in addition to the winter storm patrol, they also performed some hazard tree removal at the E. George treatment plant.
When you restart Scott's, the strategic plan, we should go to Scott Flat Lake.
Moving on to the service crew. They also worked on a Long Ravine pipeline replacement project. They trenched 760 feet of the electrical and service lines, installed 500 feet of service line, 180 feet of the 550 feet of service line, 108 feet of service line, I think, that went to the restrooms. And then they did the removal of the deteriorated hose bibs. Monica, you have to say, those were the prettiest hose bibs I've ever seen.
They are pretty.
Pretty
now.
impressive. The recreation side is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Spoken. We can just keep people to behave themselves and use it.
Exactly.
Yeah. They also completed installation of the hot box at the Lockley Lane Intertie, performed pre-inspection pressure washing of the Shale Ridge tank and Lake Wildwood Clearwell tank, and then clean the Loma Rica treatment plant flocculant basin and replace the chamber door hardware. And this is in addition to the routine meter repair, meter replacement, and plant replacement.
You know, excuse me, I have a question, because I've sat on WHO, and a lot of the same stuff comes under CHIP at WHO in the water. So I'm getting a little confused that, you know, like we'll hear meter replacements from CHIP and emergency call-outs and those things. Is there, what is the crossover here, or is there?
There isn't.
There isn't?
No, so you're seeing the maintenance side of the shop as opposed to the operational side of the shop. So the operations guys, when they say if they have an emergency outage, it may be the one that maintenance is working on, but they're shutting down the system for, as an operational protocol. So I'm cross-connecting, or I'm working on a meter, or something like that. I'm going to do an emergency shut-off.
All right.
Yeah, so operations sort of sees the need for the work, Jackie does it.
Or Jackie's crew see the need for the work, and then they go for it.
And the CHIP's crew does it?
It can be, yeah.
Okay,
So the distribution operators, they find a break here,
The two divisions work very
operations will
closely
shut the
together.
valves off,
Okay.
we'll come in and fix that.
Got it, all right, thank
They
you for that clarification. I'm scratching my head. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a super simplified version. Very simplified. Okay, and then moving on to the plaster crew, some highlights there. They completed the construction of the Lone Star Spill 3 structure, doing that replacement, as well as they encased a portion of the St. Patrick's Canal and the Rock Creek bypass. And then, again, they're down doing all of the canal as well as the raw water maintenance, canal cleaning in the Placer County area. So they did all the mucking and the spill repairs and the access road repairs over winter, getting ready for water season. And in addition, they were also performing some meter replacements in the North Auburn and Lake of the Pines area. So they kind of, that crew does, again, emphasizing some raw water and treated water work. Moving on to the canal crew, they completed encasement of a portion of the Chicago Park West Canal, as well as some culvert replacements on the Tar Canal. This is in addition to the winter routine maintenance of all the irrigation canals. They also performed a number of access maintenance, including access maintenance on roads to the Tar and the Rex Canal. And then they also removed the log boom from the lower Scott Flat reservoir to facilitate the dive inspection. The South Yuba Canal continued working with PG&E, gathering data, performing inspections. They also participated, again, in the PG&E, the annual outage on the South Yuba Canal, gaining experience in walkdown and material ordering in preparation for the outage, preparing material loads for helicopter transport. They also got hands-on experience replacing girders, bracing, bench caps, midspan posts, post beams. They also prepared documentation regarding access to facilitate our upcoming inspection by consultants that are going to go out and do an assessment of the South Yuba Canal. Okay, moving on to the vegetation crew. They completed, now again, our employees in the vegetation crew are licensed through the state. They completed their required advisor and applicator continuing education courses, as well as the Phase 3 study applications and monitoring and data collection. The crew also welcomed the new Assistant Maintenance Superintendent of Vegetation, Jason Carroll. He comes to us fully licensed with all the required licensing and experience in pest control advisor.
Where is he from?
He was originally from, well, he was living in Chico prior to here, but Paradise is, I believe, where he grew up.
Well, now they have no more vegetation up there, so I assume that.
Oh, there's vegetation all over the north where he was working, so.
Well, now with a little bit of rain, you know, it's gonna,
Oh, yeah,
like
it's gonna,
mad.
yeah.
He's an erosion control specialist.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
now it's more dangerous than it was, right? I mean, it's now gonna be grass and all that stuff, and with the heat, it's gonna snap dry that stuff.
Flashing.
I was just seeing.
I know. Right.
And then the fleet mechanic shop performed 106 truck and vehicle services, 7 vehicle retrofits, 41 equipment services, and 38 regulatory required inspections. They're also gearing up and going out and doing the maintenance, preparing for the CSPS event.
Did we have to retrofit some of those generators from propane to diesel?
So engineering's still working on that.
We're still working on it.
Yeah, I know, because we were unable to identify a law or regulation that prevents the propane delivery guys from going into the fire area.
It's just that they go, I'm not going there.
Exactly. So, engineering's still looking into it. My thought at that point is to get contractual covenants with our suppliers to force them into that space, or we need to come up with a different solution.
Are the tanks underground?
No, they're not. So that's the other thing that the engineers are looking at this point, is can they bury them?
There's some parts of the country they do.
Yeah. But given our experience with underground fuel storage,
Yeah,
not so awesome.
It's not awesome.
So there's an idea of maybe putting them in concrete galleries, right? We set the tank down in the concrete gallery, we put like an H20 door over the top of them. But our issue is that we can't get the driver to drive out to fill the tank. So the generator runs for 3 days.
Doesn't matter whether it's underground or both.
No, yeah, we still need to get somebody out there that can hook it up, right? So there's 11 of those and out of the 41 generators that we have. Yeah, I think those numbers are right. I know 11 is right. So engineering's still working on it. Right now, they're predominantly focused on the North Auburn generator. So the new generator plus switchgear plus pumps. That's number one.
Thank you, Jackie.
This should be
Well,
brief.
she's not done yet.
They have been closed.
She's
Do we
got
have any public comment?
all these cool graphs and things.
I think we need to grasp it, but I don't have any information.
Well, I appreciate having the cool graphs, because it really, it makes it's a good visual.
Makes it trendy.
Yeah.
And see if we're in the right trend or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we are closing 5 and moving on to 6, recreation activity report. We've been doing a lot. Even though
Yeah,
we've
you
been
have.
closed, we've been doing a lot. All of our boat launches, our campgrounds and boat launches are closed. Boating to open on Friday.
Hopefully, yes.
Yes, it will.
All right.
With limitations. We've got signage. I've been working with Nevada County Environmental Health. Patrice was glued to my hip. We work really well together. So we have a lot of signage. We have a lot of paperwork that's going to go out. We have a release liability form that everyone will sign. We have limitations on hours. Our gates will be closed at 7 o'clock at night, so no campers sneak in, because that's always a problem at this time of year.
No motoring in the morning.
No motoring in the morning from 7:30 to.
Okay, good. So we have.
9:30.
Yeah, I mean, and the school people, they'll get in before then. They usually do. So with that, everyone's good. I have brought in the top building maintenance. It is the janitorial service that the district is using. So they will be cleaning the boat launch bathrooms. They will come in the morning, do disinfecting, sanitizing, and then we will come back at 1 o'clock and just make sure the bathrooms are clean. So we're only touching them twice.
So back to the opening the boat launches. Are you phasing that in, like you had talked about, with just first the
The
slips and mooring balls
but
will,
also season pass holders, or how did that end up?
we're gonna just phase in just the the mooring and the slip holders. Although kind of like our feel is that most of them aren't gonna come in until the 29th anyways, which is fine. And then on the 29th, our boat launches will be open to locals only. So Nevada,
Locals only, yeah.
Nevada and Placer County will be checking IDs to make sure.
Yeah, I wondered how last time we did not have a definition of locals only.
And I've created a list, Danette and I have created a list of what towns and cities are in each county.
So the county gave us that.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, so
Maybe
that
that's the
came from our
definition.
health officer, right?
exactly.
Okay. And then how long will, we don't know, how long for just the locals only? It's until somebody says
Until
something
somebody
different.
says,
Yeah,
stop.
exactly.
So after this is done, then we're gonna start working with the county on day use, as I mentioned. So we're gonna slowly but surely figure out how to bring folks into the campground and get them to day use. How do we control that population? How do we support the bathrooms? That whole thing. Once that's done, then we'll wait for phase 3 on campus.
Yeah, I know, I was reading something this weekend where it said this, California's moving through, and they think they're gonna get to phase 3 quicker than anybody thought. And so then I thought about all of you guys, oh God, you're trying to implement all these things, and all of a sudden, it's phase 3, we go.
Well,
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah, and we do have a lot of people that have been upset with us because we haven't had our boat launches, but we do, just as many people that are upset, we've got a lot of people that are backing us on our choices. And even, I go through the Facebook and I see us, and there's still a lot of people that, no, we don't want camping to open, we want to keep our town safe. And so, just as many people that oppose our decisions, we have a lot of them that are right with us and right with the county as well.
Right, well, there are decisions in part, but they're also regulated in part by the county and the state. So it's not just like we're willy-nilly deciding this.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're doing it the right way.
I think you guys are doing a great job.
There are other boat launches and, that are open.
Are there going to be anybody from Shannon Moon's office to help when you say, oh, no, sorry, your license says you're from Alameda County, you can't come in?
Well, we are going to press release the heck out of this today.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes.
And
Tommy
we're
and
gonna sign
Susan,
board.
yeah, exactly.
So we're gonna try to get them before they try to crash the gate, right? So that they know there can only be 4 people in the vehicle, they all have to be local, well, the driver has to be local. They're gonna so all the names go on the liability form. There are gonna be people that are gonna try to cheat the system.
Sure.
It happens all the time.
Right, so.
Can't get away from
But
and your board will get a copy of those press releases, right?
yes, they will.
Thank
We
you.
had that conversation.
Okay, I'm sorry to have interrupted,
That's
but
okay.
I really wanted to understand the locals only piece of it, that it had been defined.
Yeah. And Scotts Flat office, we're going to keep the office closed for the season and just run all our business through the gatehouse like our other campgrounds do. It just seems the safer thing to do for now. Plexiglass shields have been installed at all the gatehouses. And we actually finished last week installing them at the marina and the campground stores.
Nice.
We will not be opening the campground stores right now, but our marinas will be open for fuel sales. So we've got that going on. We have a POS, a point of system sale that has been ordered for the recreation, all of our sales. We're just waiting for the laptops to come in, and this will help to remove the auditors fighting on our cash handling. Be nice. All the campgrounds, because of the POS system, we had to make sure that we had internet at all of our gatehouses and our marinas and stores, so that is now a done deal. Tree work at Gate 2 and Cashew Road is now complete. It looks beautiful.
It does.
I love it. And with the campgrounds being closed, we had a little bit of extra time to squeeze some tree work at Gate 1. We had probably 13 and a half dead trees if Nathan's still here. Because I kept telling the guy, well, that's just a half.
You can't charge me for a whole tree.
Well, you can't charge me for a whole tree. That one's already on the ground. So, yeah, it's just amazing, especially at Gate 1, all the tree work that we've done over the last 3 years, and we still go in, and there's so many dead, but it just is what it is. And with these storms, it's amazing how a lot of them have just fallen over, the live ones, roots and all. So we had a big cleanup there. It looks actually really, really good. The 2020 season is slowly but surely underway. We've only brought on about 14 temporary employees compared to the 40 that we would really have right now. So it's kind of a bit lonely, but that's okay. It'll happen. We, along with our neighbors, and this is probably because we aren't open for camping, we all have been having some bear issues. We have a mama and 3 cubs.
I saw a video of her.
Yeah.
It was very cute.
She's adorable.
Have
The cubs are adorable.
you been able to obtain bear boxes out there?
No. We don't, once we get going, typically, they don't, I mean, every once in a while if somebody leaves something out, it's going to get taken, but we don't really have a big problem. And I just think that maybe because they're not able to take that one cooler or whatever, they've been in our business. They broke into one of my bathrooms. They broke into the marina store the other day. So it's just, and I know my neighbors have been having a few issues. Mm-hmm. But it seems more on the Pasquale side, the Cascade Shore.
Yeah, it is.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
And through social media. Future projects, painting the showers. I have to paint a bathroom now because we have bear claws on our wall. They get in and they don't realize how to get out. It's like you created a hole, just go back out the hole.
Oh, yeah, right.
They want to try to find somewhere else.
Leave it on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, really. It's like,
exactly.
Oh, look who's here.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is what's out
Maybe
there.
I don't want to go to the bathroom here.
True. And then
That's what we do, is we put up signs that say, bears in the area, please don't defecate on them.
True. We could.
I just think you should put up signs, bears in the area.
Yeah.
People,
Well, we have them all
We
over.
have them on our handouts as well. And then in the off-season, we are looking to replace the retaining wall between the store marina and the marina store and the lake. It's kind of falling into the lake. It needs to be repaired. One of the many.
Somebody made it out of wood.
Yeah, it just wasn't made properly. At Orchard Springs, staff reset the boat slips. We replaced a few of the damaged slips and added some stabilizing weights, so it should be perfect. Cross our fingers.
Did all those cool boat slips come in that we ordered?
Yep, they're all.
And they're all in and.
Long ravine looks beautiful. You
Right
look out
on.
there and I love it.
Very good.
Staff, we had to repair the fence over our new fence around our meadow area. We had a tree that just fell down, root ball and all. And then staff has been working on cleaning the day use area. It's where all the debris and trees wash up. We're the last one before that. We could just open it this way, flip it over, push it over there, we'd be fine, but no, it's like right there. Exactly. And then in future, we still need to look at ordering picnic tables and umbrellas for the store picnic area. Right now it is closed off and will just be closed off most of the season, I would assume. Long Ravine, water system replacement is almost complete. As far as running the water, the target date was the 22nd. I don't know if that changed, everything to be fully loaded, but we're really, really, really close. The new boat slips are built out in the water and they're ready. Robinson Enterprises was able to come out early this time and not wait till last minute and try to help us get our old boat slips out. Usually it's kind of like last year we had an issue because they were working down in Paradise, so they weren't able to come and help us until last minute when we were sweating it, but they did get to us. And then with everything being closed down, we've noticed some places where people are able to get in where they shouldn't, so we have blocked those accesses off.
Very good.
Yeah. And we're in the process right now of restriping the boat launch and overflow parking lots at Long Ravine. Peninsula has been closed since last season. Our camp hosts, we have two, they seem to be managing well as far as getting the campground ready for opening, for potential opening. Jackson Meadows is closed through the 14th, and that's going to probably be extended. Pass Creek boat launch, and actually the Bowman side, there's two boat launches on Bowman. Those are both open, but we've had some snow over the last couple weeks, so sometimes the accessibility is not all that great. But I heard it was very busy this weekend. There's a lot of people out on Jackson Meadows. And we are working closely with both Sierra and Nevada counties and the U.S. Forest Service on a potential opening date for camping and what that might look like. We'll see. Future projects, Pass Creek Overflow, we had some vandalism last year. Somebody threw a rock down the piping of the dump station, and in trying to get it out, I guess, or the rock being thrown down there, it broke the pipe, so it's going to be, yeah. So we're going to have Anderson Plumbing come and help us with that. We still need to do some tree work up at the sawmill. I did have staff go up on Friday just to kind of hang some signs to right off of Highway 89 just to let people know that the campgrounds were closed. and the boat launch was open. The guys went in and, past week overflow was quite full. That's a kind of a little, campground that we have right above the boat launch. And, Forest Service was supposed to get the gate locked and they didn't get up there in time, so we tried, but it was too crowded. So we're like, okay, you can stay here this weekend, but we'll be back. So move along. Combi. We have been working on the updating of the dock encroachment rules and regulations and the dock specs. We have taken it to APC in May. Recommendations were made, and it will be coming back to APC in June. And then future projects are still working on all those encroachment violations that we have out on Combi.
Yes, have those letters gone out, and what kind of response?
Not until we...
Yeah, not until we get the first part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, once we get that done, then it will roll on. Yes, and then Greenhorn, I've been in contact with the Liceras, as our concessionaires, at least 2 to 3 times a week, giving them guidance, helping them, trying to get to an opening process. They're kind of, they didn't realize that they actually needed an opening process, even for boat launch, so I've shared some of my information with them and guided them to Nevada County Environmental Health, and they have been working with Nevada. They did open their boat splits. I did have on here May 15th. They had potentially wanted to, and when I wrote this, they were going to open, but they kind of got shut down because they didn't have an opening process. And they actually opened this last weekend for their boat splits. And they did, over the weekend, we're allowing outsiders to come in, but outsiders being Nevada and Placer County residents only.
And then is there a limit? Are you limiting the number of people that get out on the lake? You know, it's like 50% of normal or?
The truck gauges, how many parking
Yeah,
spots we got?
so, yeah, that's the plan. We have several, and once the parking lot's full, then we're done. Yeah. And also, one thing I didn't put in that I want to totally let everyone know is that I did purchase a generator, and it was so nice when the power went off last week.
Yeah.
And I just clicked a button.
Isn't that
and
great?
Power.
That is so good.
There was heat, there was power, there was internet, there was phone. It was awesome. So,
It's the
moving
little
forward.
Well done. I know, sometimes those little things are
Exactly.
big things.
Yep. That's all I had. Any
Thank
questions?
you. No, thank you.
Great. Okay, any public comment? Okay, with that, we will end the committee meeting.
Thank you. Thank you
Very much.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, everyone.
Amen.